Strategy for attempting critical reasoning questions on GMAT. The missing link approach is what we call it at Experts Global. So what is a missing link? In a typical critical reasoning question, you will see a premise and conclusion. In simple words, some information and a conclusion out of it. In most cases, the conclusion will not logically flow from the premise or the information given. This gap between the premise or the given information and the conclusion is the missing link. You have to identify this gap. Identifying this gap, or the missing link, is the key to solving most critical reasoning questions on the GMAT. Understanding the missing link. Look at this argument. Please pause the video and try to find the missing link. The only information given here is 15% GDP growth, and the conclusion is that party has done a good job. It should stay in power. Of course, the gap is between the GDP growth and retention of power. Remember, there is one missing link, but there are multiple ways of filling the missing link. Let's take some examples. Look at this. During tenure of no previous government, the GDP grew by more than 10%. So, if never before the GDP grew by more than 10%, and in the tenure of the current government, it grew by 15%, then the missing link between the information and the conclusion is filled. Remember, you just have to fill the missing link. Don't look for a validation. You will almost never be able to validate the conclusion. It's about strengthening the conclusion. Anything that tends to strengthen the conclusion tends to fill the missing link. All right. So this is an answer choice that is definitely filling the missing link. Look at this. GDP growth is a very important factor in deciding whether a party should stay in power. Since the conclusion is based only on the GDP growth, addressing that GDP growth is a very important factor in deciding whether a party should stay in power tends to fill the missing link. So this is another way. Look at this one. That the government played an important role in achieving the growth in GDP also tends to fill the missing link. That's another way of filling the missing link. Look at this. No other similar economy witnessed growth of more than 12%. You have to be aware of such answer choices. They are very often traps. This statement makes sense because of the term similar economy. An analogy has been drawn, and then the comparison has been made. Therefore, this also fills the missing link. If other similar economies did not grow by more than 12%, and this particular country's GDP grew by 15%, then the argument is strengthened. Using the missing link approach. The steps are: Number 1, read the question first. Yes, before reading the paragraph. So before you get into the paragraph, you must know that whether it is an assumption question, strengthening question, weakening question, or which one. Step 2 is to read the paragraph very carefully. Make a mind map rather than taking notes. Taking notes throughout the verbal section is not recommended. You can very well have mind map for reading comprehension as well as critical reasoning questions. Identify the missing link. Very, very important. You must know where is the gap in the reasoning, and then the crucial step that most students do not realize, that before you move into the answer choices, you must have a broad idea of what you are looking for. Half the difficulty of critical reasoning questions lies in the vocabulary, the complexity of the language in the answer choices. And therefore, when you have a clear idea of what you are looking for in the answer choices beforehand, the task becomes a lot easier. And then, throughout the verbal section, it is not about one correct choice. It is always about eliminating 4 answer choices. The one that you are left with is the correct answer choice. This was the concept, friends. GMAT shots are deliberately kept brief. For an elaborate explanation, please watch the Stage 1 conceptual videos in our program. Thanks for watching.